So the purpose of talking about meditation state or these states is simply to lay a basis. But when we start to use that as our primary chart for attainment, then the conversation falls into misuse, and people never actually get into it because they're trying to bring their experience into the language prajna explanations of what it is and how it is. And even the Buddha had difficulty of all the things that he could do. The one thing is he said about this is like it's hard to explain, but it can be experienced. And so so that's where I want us to go now. I think we've done enough language prajna to get the idea about something. But I want to, if I dim these lights, can they see it all online? How about that? Can they still see me? Because I got this one right here. Okay, so would you all mind if I bring the lights down to this? And if those are too bright for you, you can move somewhere else. I will say that it helps to have a more darkened environment. I mean, actually, when I'm actually training with this in a retreat, I have people wear eye mask, and earplugs. And I think about maybe 95% of the people do it. The rest, like, I'm not doing that. So that's okay. But the reason is so that one can have the full experience and recognition of what is happening as the sense gates begin to close down, or the transference of information from the sense gates that inform the mind begin to fall away, and then one becomes aware of something that are akin to senses, akin to information, but it's not dependent upon what somebody is seeing or hearing or tasting, touching, smelling, or thinking. So there is this super consciousness that is present there. But until these are tamped down, one is not aware that is there. And that is taking us toward our intrinsic nature, or the intrinsic prajna reality. So it's already here, always with us. It's just that it's obscured and covered. And so we're taking these down so that it can arise. I just needed one, thank you. So that it can arise and one can become aware of it. That's what awareness is. And one can realize it. That's what realization is. So we think realizing something is when we have a bombastic intellectual knowing. That's, aha, I realize it. But actually, one could say it's the opposite of that, because until all thinking that's tied into the information that comes to us through the six base gates that connect us with the phenomenal world, until all of that settles down, this realization of intrinsic reality prajna cannot manifest. And that's what makes it like, when I say out of this world, that's what makes it the totality of experience. Whereas when we're using the sense gates for our information, it brings a partial understanding. So if I say it's illusory, I don't mean that it doesn't exist and I'm not here and you're not here. You know, I say when we say it's like a dream, it's like the operative word first is dream because we understand how dreams are. But then the second word, operative word, is like. It is like a dream. I'm not saying that it is a dream and that it's not real, but I'm saying it's like a dream. And when one drops the fixed discrimination of everything being whatever your mind tells you it is, drops that kind of discrimination, then one moves into a vast field where they can perceive the underlying emptiness of all phenomena. So then phenomena is empty, and yet whatever appears in front of me is real. It's not empty or real. It's empty and it's real. And when one reaches that conclusion, that's when the suffering of how things appear fall away. And then one can handle all the vicissitudes of life. But in addition to that, one has a capacity to know things with the prajna wisdom, which is not the intellectual wisdom. And that's how the arising of supernormal states emerge as supernormal powers. It means that you're using another sense or capacity other than the six that we know and constantly operate in this life. Doesn't mean that they don't exist, just like before we knew gravity was gravity and aerodynamics was aerodynamics. Those laws were still there. They were already there. We just now discovered them, but they didn't just come into being. They've always been there. And so there are faculties that we possess that are there. It's just that we have not realized them, or we have not activated them because we've been, just completely consumed and subsumed with all of our limited kinds of thinking of the intellect. So that's the setup for this. And when we go into these practices, then we can't have any. It's like thinking of every stranger as a friend or a potential friend. If you can't get to every stranger as a friend, we could say as a potential friend, and you want to get to know them. You want to be with them, spend time with them, but you don't want to spend a long time with them because you don't know them, so you might talk to them for 5 minutes, 10 minutes and move on. Later, you might spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes talking with them, but the one that you love, you can spend hours and hours and days and months and years and decades with them, right? And so building this relationship with meditation is just like that. Don't spend any more time with them than you can spend with them, them being those times of meditation that you can spend with them without feeling like this is like too much, and so you develop or cultivate a relationship with it, so much so that when you think about it's like going off to meet your lover. It's there is a calling me, and when one develops that kind of love for the meditation, as opposed to, okay, we got to do this every day. I've gone to bed now. Oh, I forgot supposed to do it every day. Oh, I'll get up and do it. And then we do our meditation practice or whatever. But it's like wanting to slip away for a few minutes here and a few minutes there. I remember Panyadeep and I, we would spend so much time together that when we would go away to somebody else's place for retreat or for meditation, we'd have to be careful not to spend so much time together, because it just wouldn't look good. I mean, people's minds like they're together all the time. So to not mess with anybody else's mind, we would like be in opposite places all the time. But I would think about my friend, oh, I want to share this with Panyadeep, or I want to, but I couldn't really. But then when we would get back to the monastery, I couldn't wait to tell them all the things that I had discovered. How was it for you? And we would talk about all of these things. So it's sort of like that. So when you think about meditation, that's why you should reflect when you come out of meditation. What happened? What was that time like? What did you do with that time? What was you're just recalling what happened in that meditation. And if you said, well, I was doing good and then everything fell away and I tried to bring it back, and the more I tried, the worse I did. And so you walk away thinking that was a bad meditation, But he's saying that reflect what happened, then okay, then what hindrance arose for me? And then you have to figure out what it was, and then you say, oh, so I shall practice that won't arise now that I see it. But if you don't see it, you don't know how to arrest it. You don't know how to neutralize it. You don't know how, you don't know what the problem was. Like, I don't know, but he says you should know. So you have to reflect. You have to recall on your meditation. Don't just jump out, meditation time over, got to go. But you reflect on what happened during that time. You can reflect on what you did well, what didn't go so well for you, and whether you need to arouse more energy. Do I need more energy? Do I need more patience? Do I need to just get off the pillow and take care of something and then come back? Do I, figure out what you need in that moment to be present in meditation, like you would be present for a partner, to be present. So thinking about meditation in that way, as entering into a certain state, we begin. And why do we start? You don't have to start with mindfulness of breathing. We generally offer it because that's the one that the Buddha used and he described in detail, the 16 steps, and that he went through. But after a while, 16 steps is 16 steps. You can leap up the steps. You can like do the slow walking up the steps. You can go a little faster. These are zip. As soon as you turn your mind, you're already at step number 4. Because you're so used to doing it. It's like going from a jacket to skin. I can feel the weight of the jacket, but I don't feel the weight of the skin, But so you wear it like a jacket, then like a shirt, and then it becomes like skin. So you can like zip through a lot of the steps. It's just like that. As soon as you turn your mind to it, you're there. You're there, and that depends on how endearing it is to you. It depends, and endearment is a more valuable resource than obligation. And so the first thing is to come to some terms of endearment with the practice. Now that means then there's different kinds of practices for different personalities, but more than that, it's different practices depending on what's happening, what's going on in your life, the reason you're sitting at this moment. So we make some contact with where we are at the present moment. And that informs what kind of state we need to arouse or enter into. So what technique or method we will use to enter into arouse in that state. So if I'm angry and I'm coming to sit in meditation with an angry mind, what kind of meditation would I employ? Or if we're using meditation as a practice, what kind of mind state, though, am I trying to enter? What kind of meditation am I trying to employ? What would that be? Okay, it could be patience.
Loving kindness.
It could be loving kindness.
Compassion.
It could be compassion.
Equanimity.
It could be equanimity. And when we say anger, it could be like what kind of anger, like where the anger is coming from, which would determine whether I was going to apply illuminating thoughts about compassion versus patience versus loving kindness versus equanimity, right? So our mindfulness, this is where mindfulness comes in and is joined to it. The mindfulness needs to be connected to the state that I'm in versus the state that I want to reach, right? Anger could even be cut off by arousing a spirit of fearlessness. So sometimes anger is our protection place. That's why you got to know your own mind. And as you start to really know your mind and know that which subdues particular kinds of minds, then you know what to pick up and employ at that moment. Okay. Now there's some practices that we do to like stabilize, to sweeten, and to arouse the mind, to use things that are beneficial for it. For instance, this is the Daily Buddhist chant book. And I left mine at home, so I have one it's not all dog-eared, but I want to give you an example. Just hold on 1 second. Okay, so here's an example of one. Whatsoever beings, I'm not going to do the Pali, I'm going to do the translation. Well, how it started is that one time when the Buddha was getting ready to give a teaching, a deva from one of the God realms came and said, would you give a teaching that would be suitable for us? Would you invite us to sit in and listen to the Dharma? And from that time on, it said that whenever a Dharma talk was given, that also the Devas and were also invited to come and to listen to the Dharmas. And it was Saka who was king or ruler of the Deva world who made this request. And they called him the tranquil sage of the Sakyas, who realized cessation, freedom from passion, immortality, and excellence, because he attained concentration without interruption. And he said, we beings here assembled of the earth and the air salute the accomplished Buddha, honored by gods and humans. By this understanding, may there be happiness. And then he went on to say that if the gods were invited to be to listen to the Dharma talks, that they would provide protection and inspiration for the worldlings. Protection and inspiration means by their presence, the strength of their presence, inspire them to all good works, to all accomplishment. You know how if somebody is there with you and they give you confidence just by their presence, I can do this. I can handle this. Their presence affects you in a certain way. The same way as if someone comes and they have a very negative energy, their presence affects you in a certain way. And so this book pulls out all of the suttas. It's about a close to a 215-page book that brings all of the suttas that relate to calling on or acknowledging, I'll say, the heavenly beings, some who have more enlightenment or greater awareness and understanding and abilities than we do, to recognize, bring to our remembrance that they are present with us if we call and we just say, be present with us. And I think the next one, because I wanted to read specific ones and I'm having difficulty locating the exact ones that I want to read to you right now. But I want to do this because what I want you to know is that this is not some later Mahayana or Vajrayana invention. It was here from the beginning in the Buddha's teachings, but unfortunately in the West, the teachings got separated. Mindfulness got cut off and became its own thing. And so some understanding and utilizations were lost. And actually, when you all go into meditation in your first set, I'm not going to go in with you because I want to find a particular one that I found last night to read to you, because I want to give you this confidence that it's not something from some other spiritual teaching, but that it was part and parcel of the Buddha's instructions and his advice to us. The difference is that we are not looking for them to do anything for us. We have to do our work ourselves, but their presence and our awareness of their presence is an abiding encouragement to us to do our work, that we can do our work, and it makes it so much easier because the mind is lifted up into those states because they are real states that one can be in. One is not feeling alone, abandoned, something he's just got to tackle and master. It's just like being invited into a banquet of joy and delight and accomplishment. And then we start to realize, yeah, I have it already. It's already mine. I'm just moving away the clutter and getting to it. So it does start with bringing our focus to some object, and that's just for the purpose of gathering the mind and pointing inward. And these are words we use, but you know how you do it when you want to like really ponder or something or think about something and remove distracting thoughts. That's why it's sometimes more useful to close the eyes than to leave the eyes open. At some point, you can leave your eyes open. I was looking out the window today, and then suddenly the window became like when pictures get like messed up and you get pixels, and then it just turns into blocks. And then so I was looking out the window, and then suddenly it just became like pixels and blocks, and like fell away, and then the looking out the window was back to looking out the window, So it was just one, not a reminder, I would say, but it was the recognition that everything has emptiness as its base, and that becomes more and more clear to you all the time. These are the things that are difficult to put into words, but you start having this constant shift of perception until you really, really see more than intellectual grasp of emptiness, but you actually have a full-blown experience of emptiness. And it'll happen more and more and more. And not when you're trying to have it. It just, when one thought ends and another one has not arisen, right in that space, one sees the Dharmakaya. Now, those are words I'm saying. When one thought has ended and the next thought has not yet arisen, it is in that moment that one sees the Dharmakaya. He said one sees the Buddha. One knows the Buddha nature. When one thought has ended and the next thought has not yet arisen. So if you're never seeing it, it's just simply because there's the constant stream of thoughts. So some of this practice is to allow thoughts to settle down, impressions to subside until one moves into a space of non-discrimination. And then, like an optometrist, like correcting those frames, you'll go from 20/60 suddenly to 20/20. And then it'll just go away. But you are changed when you enter these states. You shift from being an ordinary person struggling with what you see or whatever information is coming through the sixth sense base. There is no longer a struggle with that because you see the underlying emptiness of that. And it brings a kind of freedom that's indescribable. But not just the freedom, it brings a kind of wisdom that comes that's not ordinary wisdom. Then you learn how to handle all your problems, solve all your problems and not create new ones. And then life becomes, like very easy. It seems harder in the beginning because you're unraveling, untying knots, So it looks like everything starts happening. starts happening in your personal relationships, happens with your money, happens with your business, happens with, your fame. It happens with, all of the things that you held dear. When that grasp is of reality, true reality as it is, pops up in you, it disturbs that fairyland, that make-believe world, the one that we're doing everything to hold together, crafting, keep putting down the glue. And suddenly none of that really matters. And there's a kind of freedom that one experiences. We're living in a great time. I know it's a hard time, but it's a great time. What we found out through COVID is that life is more than spending most of your waking hours getting to work, being at work, and getting back home. So we've got a crisis with work now, because people are like, I don't want to spend my whole life doing that. I'll scale down to not have to go to the office and spend 8 or 9 hours there, and some spend 10 hours a day there. I don't want to do that anymore. Life is more than going to work. Life is more than having a career. Life is more than, you look at those who get fame, and then suddenly life falls apart for them because they come to the end of that, still empty. Life is still empty. And so we've had this time of, we decided we don't even want to go back to work for 8 hours or 10 hours a day. I'm not going, And then we look at it, we stayed at home with each other, we found out, I don't even like you that much. I don't want to, I thought I liked you because I only saw you for 2 hours a day. But then I'm with you all the time, I don't know. Or we decide, all of a sudden they were talking about, I was talking to this Basita and Soma today, how the wedding industry is like all messed up, and all the money people lost because they paid like $30 and $40 and $50,000 for a wedding, and then they decided that they didn't want to get married, so all that money's gone because it's all non-refundable for the flowers, for the food, for the invitation. The people bought their wedding dress, what do you call them, bridesmaid dresses. They made these plane tickets to go to Hawaii, all of these places, and at the last moment, they take a little vacation, 2 weeks by themselves. Never went anywhere by themselves before, and this time, she's worth getting to know. Come back and saying, I don't want to get married. Now y'all know I'm not talking about marriages, right? I'm talking about knowing one's own mind. That's what I'm talking about. And so they're having these moments, where they're discovering that they are on a gerbil wheel, and there's got to be something else. And this is a way that we come to know what the totality of that something else is, but has to be directly experienced. So here we go, bringing the attention to the mind. And I guess I would like to invite the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. Shakyamuni wasn't the only one, right? He is for this dispensation, he is the Buddha of this world for this dispensation. But he wasn't the only one. There are uncountable Buddhas and Bodhisattvas since the beginning of this time. And so we invite them to come and be present with us to fortify and strengthen our resolve. And when one comes to do this continually, one will start to be aware of their presence with us. It's just like when you walk into an empty house, the house is empty. But I used to sell houses, and I would go and look at houses at night sometimes, because don't know whether electricity is on or not. It's vacant, and I'm previewing houses. But one night, I went to check out a house I was going to show the next day, and I clicked, and the light didn't come on. But as soon as I took 3 steps, I knew somebody was present in that house. I could feel their presence. So I just slowly backed up to the front door. And I called out, hello, hello. And a guy said, who's there? And I said, I'm a realtor. And then he said, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know anybody was going to be here. This is my sister's house. And she gave me the keys because I'm passing through town. She said I could stay for the night. I said, well, on my listing, it says it's vacant. If somebody was going to stay, they should have made a call. I said, but that's okay. I'll just come back tomorrow and you go ahead and stay. He said, okay, I'll be gone by 8 or 9 o'clock. And that was it. But I'm saying I could sense the presence of someone in the house. And so as one gets stiller and stiller, one can begin to sense the presence of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas present here. That kind of lifting, enlightening, courageous, compassionate presence. And it resonates because all of those attributes are also in me. Can't you experience them in you right now? Can you recall a time when you aroused those very qualities and used them by your own power and ability? You thought that you didn't have the capacity to love, but you found that you did. You thought, well, I'm just who I am and I can't change that, but you found that you could change. You thought you couldn't take down in an argument, but that you found that you could. You could just let it go. It was more important to your friendship that you let it go than to be right. Think now of all of these qualities that are resonating and popping alive, coming to your mind stream as we experience these same qualities in the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, those who overcame. But they are also our ancestors. But they are our ancestors who overcame. And so one develops some confidence in their practice now. Because they know that they're not sitting here in an unworthy state, but in a worthy state. This is a type of shifting the mind practice. One should get into this good state when they sit to meditate. So that one can arouse energy patience in their development, in their cultivation. Happiness and joy in the prospect of the attainment that's possible from this simple act of sitting and turning inward. What delight. It can even cause just the slightest of smiles on one's lips, slightest upturn that releases the stress that we hold, causes the crinkle at the corner of the eye. Even that shifts our consciousness. And already in cultivating these kinds of thoughts, there is the laying aside of covetousness and grief for the world. Yeah, I have some problems to work through, some issues, but not right now. I leave them at the door of this encounter. That's how one talks with oneself, so that they can be fully present for this encounter. And already one can experience the settling down of an agitated mind. If we're not careful, we'll get so settled that we'll become sleepy. Sloth and torpor is easy to work through. You just simply stop, you can open your eyes, you can look around, roll your neck, and you'll be alert again. Then close your eyes and pick right up where you left off. If you resist the lull, you can overcome it. That's just a habitual tendency. Sometimes sitting for, quote, meditation is the only time we can really let go and find some relief. But it becomes an impediment if it becomes nap time. One way we can do this is after we open our eyes and we roll our neck and we're back alert again and sit back down, we can sometimes you can stand up if you need to. He said you can even go wash your face and come back and sit again. And the reason that we do this is so that we can be alert and focused. We could be thinking, I must seize the essence of this moment. This is the only moment that is available to me right now. And one can begin to feel a sense of urgency around awakening, around laying aside unwholesome states of mind, around laying aside or abandoning unwholesome acts. One can feel a sense of urgency because they suddenly see that death can come at any time and that life is short and calamity can come at in any moment. So I must awaken to the true nature of reality now. Now is the only time. And then, as if you are sitting with a good friend, turn your attention to your breath. We'll use this one today. Notice that as soon as you turn your awareness or your attention to the breath, there is a leap in concentration. There's a leap in focus. You weren't aware of your breath a minute ago. But now you are. The breath is there. And not doing anything with it, but just placing your attention where you feel the air entering the body and where you experience the air leaving the body. Internal air or wind, external air or wind. It's just air. And if your attention wanders because you hear the patter of the rain, you can just say sound, sound, and return your attention to the breath. Or if you suddenly feel an itch, or maybe even a little chill, you can just simply think, feeling, sensation, and bring your attention back to the breath. And with your eyes closed, you don't need them to look down at your nostrils, right? So your eyes are just fixed straight ahead. You're peering into the vastness of the emptiness behind the closed eyelid. You may become aware that there's some tension in your shoulders, or your shoulders are hunched, or you thought you were sitting straight, but now you feel a little crick in your side. Just gently correct that. Relax that part of your body. And you can begin to experience a deeper letting go, relaxing, and yet being very much present. You may notice that the quality of the breath becomes very refined. Almost as if you are hardly breathing or it's imperceptible. Okay. Uh, I think that was about 15 minutes when I first started. So I want to talk about what happened in that experience for you quickly. And if nothing happens, nothing happens. If whatever one saw, one saw. Whatever one became aware of, they became aware of. So it says when you come out of meditation, reflect on what just happened.
I felt a kind of intense calm. Is that kind
Mm.
I felt a kind of intense calm, a deep calm, not like a sleepiness calm.
Mm. So when you normally meditate, do you fall asleep or is it different? So that was the same as what you always do when you meditate.
It was
All right.
better. It was better. I find that in settings like this in a group where the group's spirit encourages me, sort of like the divine beings you were talking about, it's much easier than it is sitting on my cushion at my altar.
Good. So we're not gonna always be with, but they can.
Okay.
Someone else.
I had never thought of kind of inviting deities to meditate with me and feeling their presence. So that was very helpful. I did get itchy occasionally. I had to scratch my neck and stuff, which happens. Do you suggest just sitting through that, or?
So as part of a training, right, because you're training your mind to settle down, I would see if I could go without, addressing the itch. But if it becomes too uncomfortable, you do that and get back to what your business is, because that's all it takes. And then, and in time, your control can get better. It's going to be there for a bit. It stops. But I say that particularly if maybe not so much an itch, but if you have like a cramp in your leg or whatever. We were taught you could not move. And a lot of monks' legs were messed up. They cut off circulation. They have a lot of physical problems. So I say take things to where you can take them. And sometimes, pain is not the issue. Sometimes you just need to move physically your body into a better position. And so just feel free to do that so that you can stay focused on what you're trying to focus. After a while, the focus will become stronger and stronger. And only if there really is a problem will your body let you know. And it won't be the fidgetiness of the mind.
I'm also aware of my heartbeat. So it's like a dual. Is that wrong, or is that all right? It's like as I'm breathing in and out and I'm feeling it, I'm also aware of the beat at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So that's good, because that is a sign of deepening in your concentration. That's why I have people train with earplugs, because this sound's going on, distractions that you're not even aware of going on. Your heart's going boom, 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 and then it's going. You hear all of these things. You have so many inner sounds that you hear that are also distracting, that you don't know are distracting you, because they're subtle sounds. But then your meditation can't deepen around those because you don't know they're there. But once you become aware of them, then that's another layer of training you undergo to even allow those sensations and those sounds to fall away. But you don't know to even work on that level if you're not aware of those. That's why, like I said, that's why I use the earplugs, so that you become aware of all the other distractions, the inner distractions that you have. So it's good that you can notice them even when I notice mine. I noticed that I have a flutter, for instance, and I didn't know that I had a flutter. But whenever I'm sitting in meditation, I become aware that I have flutters, So that's just something for me to know and to figure out what, if anything, I need to do about it. But it was something I was not aware of, only aware of it when I get still enough in meditation. What's it? He was next.
You speak of preliminaries before. So we had, I had a long time of quieting before I sat this time, and so I got to a quietude much more quickly than when at home I say, okay, time to go sit and walk on down the stairs and put my pillow down and do this and do that. And they say, okay, now I sit. So a much quicker quieting and a very gentle quieting this time. Usually it starts very sort of heavy almost. But this is very light, gentle quieting.
And that, when it gets light like that, there's less of a chance of the falling into sloth and torpor, because you remain buoyant. You know, that's part of it, remaining buoyant, not a kind of heavy press down. And then he says, practice going in and out. Don't do it yet, though. Do it when you just love doing this, and as soon as you sit, you know, this time is this time, and you drop everything. Meditation is walking through your day-to-day activities in this state. So don't get it confused, okay? This really is practice. But you start to experience the state, knowing the state of calm. And you'll sit there, and usually what will throw you out is either sleep or some thought that provokes restlessness. You know, and that's why you should reflect after each meditation. Be something different almost every single meditation, but you reflect on what that was that destroyed, threw you out of that space of tranquility and the falling away of thoughts. Yeah.
A few things. I noticed as my breath was slowing down and getting more subtle, that the thoughts were occupying sort of a different space. Like instead of the thoughts being in the front, they moved more to the back, or like they're still there, but they're passing. It's like as if you turn like the saturation like down on a photo, like they were more translucent in the background. And at a certain point, as I was with the subtle breath, I noticed like a joy arising with the smile and an intense right in the front of my face, energy collecting and narrowing right here. And then sort of becoming more prominent than the breath.
Could you think of contemplative illumination is almost like a candlelight, you know? So if that candle lights up the space, you know, then the whole space becomes illuminated by the light from that candle. So when we put our minds into directed towards a certain state, it's like bringing the candle of light or turning up so that to light it so that you can see everything that's in the room. And so if that light is there shining on you, what other light do you need to brighten or to illuminate the space? You don't need any other. And so that's why I think it's so important that we set the atmosphere for the encounter, because the atmosphere is what brings the light and the spaciousness to the activity, you see. And so when it's talking about laying aside covetousness and grief for the world, some of us will have covetous ideas and some will have sad or unwholesome kinds of thoughts whenever we sit, or if not, when we go to sit, as soon as we sit, things come up. But it gets to be less and less and less and less. You know how you can put intruding thoughts out of your mind when it's something else you have to do. We just think we can't get rid of it when it's this sitting that we're going to do. But sometimes we may have to be focused on something. We have to take care of a sick partner. We have to look after the baby, you know, and you move your attention to doing that thing, and those thoughts move away, you know. And it's the same with this. When this has a certain prominence in your heart and mind, and a certain aspiration goes with it, you will arouse enough energy to keep your attention here. When a thought comes to your mind, you don't even have to try to push it away, but you can diminish its characteristics, you know. So that's why I say sometimes you might hear the sound, but if you say, oh, that is the dog barking, instead of sound, you know. And then so the dog can be barking, but more and more, you know, when your thought, oh, the dog is barking, it'll stop being the storyline about the dog barking. It'll just be sound. So what happens then is as the one begins to concentrate, it brings everything else that would be a distraction that's outside of your concentration, or it brings it inside, and it just all becomes part. And then one stops so much discrimination about what it is. It's all within the sphere of your meditation. So focusing goes something like this. This is focus. In here, it's where you're really focused. Out here, it's distractions. It goes like this, and it keeps going. And then, you know, the breath is getting more and more subtle. It's taking longer for thoughts to come in and interfere, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. And now it starts to encompass everything that was outside of that meditation, until now everything is within the sphere of your concentration. Everything there. So now you have only discrimination to work with, right? It's not a dog, it's just sound. It's not an itch, it's just a sensation. It's not, you know, a thought, just seeing a thought as not my thought. It is a thought that arose, it'll abide for a minute, and it'll leave, you know. And then you start seeing the transient nature of everything, seeing the transient nature first. These things come and they go. They can distract if we want to be distracted, or we don't have to be distracted by them. They can just be there. And after a while, we will stop discriminating about what's there, simply because it takes us away from what we are enjoying and experiencing in the meditation. You know, identifying the dog bark or the raindrop was not worth me giving up this, you know, this state that I have entered into. Just not worth it. It's like you want to hear from somebody, but they called in meditation time. As much as I like them, you know, and I was waiting for their call, but I've started this now. I'm not even interested in picking up the phone, you know, because I'm making my choices, you know, and I'm establishing my ground. And that's the kind of relationship that you have to build with this for it to be useful. Then you'll find that you can just stop just about anywhere. And once you know where that state is, you can go right back to that state. Like for the next 2 minutes, we're going to just stop, go right back to the last state that you were in. Can you do that now? Right now. Just go right back. Okay, that was 3 minutes. So how many could get back? Mhm. That's good. I know the dogs really started. They were, and so, right. So what I said is, I'm so happy that they're happy that I'm going back to meditate again. And that did it for me. Just my shift of mind, like yes. And that cut off my finger. Oh, they are so excited that I'm going back to meditate again. Thank you.
Well, both times, first time I just didn't really notice the dogs. This time I heard them and I went, they belong as I belong.
Mm.
And I both times it's kind of like forget about the parameters of my body. And then the first time I was kind of like, oh, am I still breathing?
Mm-hmm.
And this time it was a little too short to get quite to not knowing I was breathing. But there's a more of a, it's kind of interesting. I really don't know what to make of the fact that I don't know where my fingers end and the air starts. And
So in time, the whole body like really like disappears. Your awareness of the whole body, and when that happens, a lot of times people get afraid because a fear hits them because there comes the sensation of the complete. Well, I'll say the non-sensation, because the sense of the body disappears. Sometimes people feel like they've blown up and they're the size of the room. So you have different, according to your own, propensities, you have different experiences, but you will have them. And those are the signs
I
that,
didn't feel fear. For me, it's very familiar to how much I love floating in the water. So that's kind of like, oh, that's where I am.
yeah. And with full awareness of the non-sensation or the shift in perception. So it's like not like you blot it out. You're there, but it's a complete shift in perception. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so when one comes out of meditation, one should have a gratitude. That's an important thing, going in and coming out, and having gratitude to be able to do the practice. Because the practice only has the value that you give it. And if you find something wrong with it continually in your own mind, you're setting yourself up for not being successful, in the practice. So one might have to work on how they the expectations that they place on it, because the joy comes when the expectations fall away, and there's no expectation. That sounds like, then why are we doing it if there's no expectation? It's not that, it's just that the intellectual mind cannot force something to happen. So this whole idea of letting go is around, and it's usually a person who's highly intellectual, who has the very strong a mental sense of themselves and their mental constructions of reality that becomes difficult. But if this is the one, not the only place, but the one place where having to really yield your intellect is important. And we may not think we're that way, we may not feel like we're that way, but if you're filtering the experience through the mind, then you are that way. You are that way. And one has to really turn one's mind to joy in meditation, even if you have to force, and I generally wouldn't say this, but I'd say force a smile. Maybe if I'm trying to smile like a Cheshire cat, then I can can just get this much, you know, and then that would be good, you know. In the Zen, you know how when they get up, they straighten the pillow and their sitting cloth and they bow. That's the great respect they give for that encounter, you know. So maybe we can change our relationship, you know, rather than the experience that we have, but just the act of doing it and recognizing it for, you know, how reverential and how precious the act is. And one can rest in knowing they did that with their whole heart and with their whole mind, because this is about changing a relationship with yourself. See, so if one doesn't have a really honoring relationship with oneself, they will have difficulty in establishing and cultivating you know, I don't want to say a strong meditation practice. Those words are just so don't go with the real experience. We have some really messed up wording that brings about messed up conceptions about this. But just thinking of this as an encounter with prajna, you know, the unfolding of reality. They call it the Buddha light, the light of the awakened mind. And it will begin to shift for you. So morning and night, the best times are when you're waking up, when you're going to sleep. After you watch TV, had your conversations or whatever, you know, snuggle bunnies, when you're actually ready to go to sleep, then if you just sit up for 15 minutes in the bed and do this. You don't have to, I say 15 minutes, but you don't have to time yourself. Just say, I'm going to sit for 10 minutes. I'm going to sit for 15 minutes. I'm going to sit for 5 minutes. Whatever time you set, just say, I'm going to do that. And then when you think that time is up, then go ahead and snuggle. Don't stop to check the clock to see how many minutes passed yet. Just whatever you can sit with, just sit with that. But you'll find that the times will extend because you have not put a requirement on it or pressure on yourself. You're just enjoying this moment of dropping off all the cares of the day, going to bed. When you wake up, if you can just say to yourself, I want to wake up 10 minutes before I normally get up. Your mind never sleeps or slumbers. It will let you know 10 minutes ahead of time, 10 minutes before the clock goes off. If you say 15 minutes before the clock goes off, 15 minutes before the clock goes off, or somewhere around that 14 minutes, 13 minutes, 16 minutes, usually a little bit before is how my mind does, like a couple of minutes before. I mean, it's like I know someone's going to call me. I wake up, my eyes are open, and I'm looking at my phone waiting. And then about 2 minutes, it's over. And even though I don't get up at 8, I know someone's gonna text me, "Good morning, Venerable. Here's your schedule for the day." I know she's gonna do that. And so a couple of minutes before 8, my eyes just open, and I'm waiting for someone. I used to just ignore the text, thinking she stopped sending it, but she doesn't. So now. So now I acknowledge that I'll say hi to someone, I'm awake, got you, or check, or thank you, or something like that. So she knows she's not doing it in vain. You know, it's just really with me, because I used to get irritated. She know I'm not up. And, you know, but now I no longer get, you know, so it's like just changing your relationship with things. You see what I'm saying? But your mind will let you know because it doesn't sleep. And then just sit up right then and do your 5 or 10 minutes before you get up. And then your clock will go off if you use a clock, and you start your day. And that's how you develop this very, very intimate relationship with meditation. Then you'll find you're out and you have to wait for somebody. You're at the doctor's office. And you know how you'll flip through the magazine at the doctor's office. You'll be able to sit there and just touch that special moment. You know, you're standing in the grocery line. Don't close your eyes. Somebody might my grab your purse and run. So you stand and everybody's there. But now you find you don't even have to close your eyes to enter into that space, because it's not a visual feel, right? So you don't have to close your eyes to enter into that space. Once you know where it is, you can just go there. Just a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there. Then after a while, you'll notice you'll start to look around, and everything shifts. And then it's back. And then something. You're seeing in front and behind, your vision is going wide and it's going behind you. Just these little things start to happen. They don't mean do anything wrong. Because it's reality, right? So what you're gonna say, I had an encounter with reality today. No need, but you'll just start to notice these things, and everything will shift for you. So your fears will scale back. Your wisdom about how to handle something, knowing what it really means to you, will come to the forefront. Your capacity to not leave it to somebody else to handle something because you don't feel like it will subside, and you'll take care of your own affairs. Ideas can come because the mind's not all cluttered with other things, anxiety. What am I going to do? How is this going to work out? I was going to say you can quickly handle things, but I'm not going to say that because Lucida has that skill that is highly cultivated, that she can quickly handle things. But me, I'm quick to see the good part of something, and yes, let's do that. And then I have to go and I have to really think about it. So after I've thought about it, I'll come back. But it's already been handled when I thought it was a good idea. And so I have to catch up, because I always see the benefit of something, but I have to look at the benefit and, the other sides. I'm more a person that quickly goes to the benefits. Some people go quickly to the obstacles. Some just like, I don't know, whatever you like. Which the Buddha said, that's the worst kind. Just too lazy to make a decision about anything. Like, where you want to go, wherever you want to go, what you want to eat, whatever you want to eat, what you want, like, think of something, make a decision about something, so we have different problems, we have different problems that we have to rectify with ourselves, but use your meditation to help illuminate and rectify the problem that you have. Yeah, and if you need help with that, talk one-on-one, yeah.
Speaking of which, do you want to remind people about this Thursday and Friday?
Yes. Okay, so whoever gives announcements can do that.
I guess that would be me.
And we are meditating twice a day, right?
Yeah.
Everybody. Okay, good.
We are gonna go down to South.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you can come over here, stand by me. Oh, he turned the camera. He's got you.
So this Thursday is Thanksgiving, and we will not be having Dharma on Thursday. And next Sunday, this coming Sunday is a day that the monastics will be going down to South Carolina. So we will not be having Dharma on this coming Sunday. So the next time we'll be here will be the following Tuesday. Got it?